This week we'll be breaking down my week from the very beginning to the end, live trading it and showing you guys entries, limits, weekly review, weekly outlook, the whole thing. Very different scenario to what I've been doing before where I just showed you weekly review, because now I can actually go through the process that I take to make my decisions. I'm going to start off with DXY. Sunday night I've done my outlook on Trello. I'm not going to show you that because that's for a separate video, but we're going to go through today the overall breakdown that I made. Of course, the last year I've used DXY so much and I've almost used it as this is what the dollar pairs are going to do rather than it just being a guide and literally just being that. Now I'm taking that approach where it's just a guide. I'm not taking it as gospel. New way of looking at things. What I'd say on DXY though, we're clearing 23, 24 liquidity lows and we broke below them. So this is the next area of liquidity down here at the lows. Back from 2022. We still haven't took them yet. We've seen a pullback the last 2 weeks. Last week tapped into this weekly. Now, often when you tap into the weekly with a weaker candle, you could straight up see downside. So overall on DXY, I'm bearish. Obviously this week is a bit counterintuitive because I'm actually bearish on the EU and GU as well. And I'll explain why that is. We may come and feel higher. We may come into higher areas, but at the minute, we don't know because the candle closed with an okay body. We broke and closed above previous weekly high and we failed at this wick that we formed at the very low. And we're in this very, very difficult area because we're all around 100 and we're right in this area. You know, we did see that close back above 100 where really we hold above this area as a key support zone. So let's have a look at EU and why I'm not looking at things the same way. All right, so going into EU on the weekly time frame, obviously what we can get from this is, you know, we're actually higher up on EU than where we are on the downside on DXY because 23 and 24 highs got cleared and we actually formed a higher high up here. We tapped into 2022 high and cleared it, but we didn't break through it. So the previous week to last week, the week I didn't do anything on the charts, we obviously saw that on Monday and then we failed. With that weekly close though, I'm not bearish because we could still just see a pullback into this weekly and go up. In fact, we could just get straight upside if we come down engulf and we'll just get the push up. What I'm looking at then, because we didn't see an engulfing candle, there's no strength in downside yet, is what do we do the next week? So the next week we come onto the charts and we saw price start upside, tapping into that wick, and then it dropped from there the rest of the week. With that being said, we then look at the weekly close. What can we gather from this? We can see the weekly closed bearish. We closed below the low of the previous week. The biggest thing of why this is an opportunity to sell and I'm bearish on this week and it's not counter is because we never saw a tap into that weekly. With a tap in that weekly last week, no way would I be looking for any downside. I'd be eyeing up the buys to continue upside. But because we haven't, it gives the opportunity to come down. Once we come into this weekly area, I'm taking my sell off and that'll be it. I may not get tagged because I've not been tagged yet. As we go on the daily, we can see here, after making this high and this failed higher lows that we've been forming here to take out the highs, we broke this low here and we closed below that. Then on Friday, we filled this area and then did not clear Thursday's low. If we start the week going up like this, I still think this could be a potential inducement to see the push down. Obviously, I'm still expecting previous weekly high to be respected. What I don't like about this area here is there was no momentum that really showed us we're going down. Of course, we've seen a lot of volume recently in the last few months. 159, some could argue that's good. It's okay, 50 pips average a day. It's not anything crazy for a rejection. You know, I'm still aware of the fact we're not massively engulfing bearish, and with the thought of DXY as a guide, yeah, we may very well just, you know, see that push down and go up. I don't expect price to just go up though, because you've seen 2 weeklies fail. You've seen a price come into an extreme high and fail to the upside in the previous week. So for us to just go straight up, I'd be very shocked. So coming into today so far, we got close to taking out that inducement. And if we didn't come up and wick high, I'd be setting a trade around this area. But because Friday did that, I now look at that as an inducement. And if it doesn't come back up, it wasn't my trade to take. I'm basing the move off the weekly confirm and then looking on the daily for areas of interest, which is that for me. And we'll see if it ends up coming down now. As for GU though, I am very much more bearish. Reason being, and we've got to remember where we're at because you've got to compare it to EU. This is 2023 high. So EU's 2023 high was very close to 2024's high. In fact, it was slightly higher. GU, it wasn't like that. We saw such a big bull run last year and made this high here. And we saw such a big pullback and took out this internal range liquidity. We're now at the highs. So not only are we at the highs, we're past 23 high, but 24 high is important. Obviously, we're looking to see upside through the 24 high. That is the overall goal. Going on to the weekly though, this weekly here, this bullish weekly that closed weak, we saw an exhausting candle. We come into equal high liquidity. The next week took that high out, rejected, closed an engulfing candle. Therefore, at this point, I'm more bearish on GU than I am on EU. And the way I'm looking at price now, it's the first strong, well, it's not strong bearish candle, strong rejection candle into this area. Now, what we can get, if we are failing at this high, price may have to come for internal. That's the internal liquidity there on the weekly. That's the time frame I'm trading on, weekly liquidity. There's all the chance we may see the push down. Maybe going crazy, 600 pips. Well, this is the work I've been putting in. We didn't see last week come into this area again, like EU. But the difference is we've seen double failure to the upside, double exhaust, and engulfing candle. See, many times when I've tested this out, especially over the weekend, where price will nip this like it has and just drop. Then we just get the moves down. So these are the higher time frame setups. I have one position at the start of the weekly wick, which I got tagged in this morning. Second position halfway within the daily area in this POI. So we may fill this, and as long as we respect the high, coming into half of the weekly wick, to me, that is the move I'm looking for. Now you might say, well, what are you going to do to hold all the way down to that? So when I'm at extreme highs or lows, and we may be getting a trend change, I've got to give the higher time frame liquidity a go, a shot to be played. Yeah, you may be going, yeah, we're never going to come back to this. We may come back into that. Well, for me, all I'm looking for now is price to continue down, trending. In these areas, I'm selling to the daily lows. In these areas, I'm selling to daily lows. I'm picking up lower time frame options in them areas as we hold this bigger move. Why can I do that? Because this stop loss should be respected as the extreme high. If we start to see something like this, and we take out and engulf a previous daily bearish candle, I will make a judgment if I deem that to be an exit signal. This may be at 2R, 5R, 7R. I will get out. If not, we could take out the liquidity. So that is the potential we have here for this move on GU. And I'm actually really confident in it. And it's hard for me to be able to take more sells, because you've got to think about this. I've took sells all year and just lost. And it's been going up. Tariffs have been going crazy. But this is the most confident I've been in a sell by an absolute mile. It's not even funny. And there's all that potential we might get the move. And I could still lose. You know, I'm not no way I'm thinking this is going to 100% win. And, you know, we might see weekly candles forming here for upside, for bullish, and we could just literally write off this high completely and just go straight through it. And in that case, I'll be out of the sells and I'll be buying, because as soon as we get that engulfing bullish candle and we start to see the weeklies failing, I'm going to be eyeing up the buys. But we are potentially going to start to see the start of something here where we're going to get a bit of downside. How far, we don't know. But we have to, instead of closing out too early, because I've done that so much, if you're a high time frame trader, you have to make the most of the bigger moves. And because we're at right now, we may be in a very good position. We'll wait and see. But that's my weekly analysis. Obviously, I'll take daily confirms as well with engulfing candles with lows or highs to retest. And in this case, it's just lows for the week. EU, will I be selling if I miss this higher time frame? Unlikely, because I need to be able to get 2R to this low, because I don't trade less than 2R, and this trade was really the shot. So maybe I won't get tagged in EU, but there's the option for GU to play out, and we'll let this hold for as long as we need to, really, and we'll see if this plays out. What I'd prefer to see price do the rest of the week now, because we've come into this wick early on with the power of 3, I'm expecting to see something like this. And I don't really want to see this Monday high cleared again. It can do. Obviously, I've got safety nets set. Full positions here, no half risks. I can play 2 moves on full risk on the higher time frames weekly analysis. And that's my rule. So that's my weekly analysis done. I'm just going to be sitting now and watching price play out. I hope you can kind of understand the changes in my strategy now. I am looking at liquidity a lot more. and understanding that and just really trusting it, because it holds true. It holds true most of the time. See you guys tomorrow. Right, this week's gone crazy. An hour before Fed rate. Didn't go through yesterday, so we're going to catch up on everything. Just starting off on DXY. The idea was to take out this low here on Friday, which we've done. We've then seen yesterday's candle after wicking up and taking out previous daily high, which is then made a new weekly high. Failed to break this current low. Today we've held it so far. We're going to see if this is a top wick to push down, or we're going to get the push up. All EU and GU trades have been taken now. You can see here that EU got tagged in yesterday, and that was late in the overall day. Very, very late in the evening, and this morning we've come down a bit, and then we pull back a bit, and then we're continuing down a little bit more now. I think the idea is there for this weekly low to be cleared, and really I don't expect previous weekly high to be broken with the analysis that I had. So if I'm right, I'm right, and if not, then we're obviously going to see that coming into the Fed rate. But what I do like so far, and at least I can reprice action, is obviously got tagged in there perfectly. Of course, I don't have a tight stop. Maybe some traders will be having stops above these highs if they're expecting it, but I'm trading off the weekly and daily, aren't I? So this move here is perfect for me. You can see that we come back this morning, pre-London, took out obviously Asian range. We ended up holding yesterday's high. So if that's the high of the week and we're going to drop, that looks good. And the fact that we haven't cleared that makes me feel a bit more confident in the idea. Obviously, there isn't all that much to say that this trade is going to lose or win yet, because it's still early days. As for GU, got tagged in yesterday, Monday. I think I spoke about that when I was already tagged in. That trade lost. We come up yesterday even higher. Then obviously that trade lost. Second position here got tagged in. So we're currently running a little bit in profit, similar to EU. Really at the minute, I want to see Fed rate drop, and then we're going to start getting this push. Hopefully I can bag up on EU and then let this GU run. So at the minute, what I want to talk about is how to deal with multiple funded accounts. Something that I've really had to learn this week, especially with what happened on EU, is price tagged me in by the Oanda chart, 0.2 pips. Didn't come higher than that. Now, of course, when you're taking trades on multiple brokers or liquidity providers, it doesn't always mean you're going to get the same entry price. And if we're actually to go on to my challenge here, I didn't get tagged in on Think Capital, so we're still not trading that this week so far. I had the one loss on GU and I've got 4% left. And if this runs down, then so be it. Obviously, I can't control what happens. I'm not going to jump back in. It's something you don't want to do. You don't want to jump back in because, yeah, if it comes back to my entry, I'm more happy to be triggered because I've still got the limit. Every other account got tagged in. Even another problem I had, FTMO EU got tagged in, which I didn't have on the copy trader. It's somehow the log has glitched out and it's copied it late. And I've woke up midnight last night, found out that I had EU running here, and it wasn't good. Good thing is, of course, looking back, and obviously I don't always look at it from that perspective because I'm thinking of the worst case scenario. I've woken up in the morning and price is up here. I've obviously closed this out 1R because I saw it and instantly did not plan for this trade. Some of you guys might say, why aren't you holding it? Well, I'm trading 1% of the funded, only GU. If I'm now taking 1% on GU twice and then EU 1%, that's not what I planned. If I'm doing that, which I've now done in the fivers, I've got a 0.5% EU and a 0.5% GU position. That's what I'm comfortable with. If it was that case, I'd leave it on, but I didn't plan to take it. So if it's not in your plan, take it off. Doesn't matter. The emotions can't get a grip of you. If price was up here when I woke up, I would have still closed it out because that's not in my plan. I'm not going to pray and hope. The last thing you want to be in trading is hoping and praying that things play out your way. You have to make strong decisions that you're confident in and that making logical sense in the moment. You can't be going around doing too many if, buts or maybes here because ultimately that is your emotions coming into play. I think next time I set a position here, obviously 811 was the entry price and that's what I've set. I'd probably set it at like 790 or 800 because then it gives a 2-pip range. I'm trading higher time frame, so it's not like I've got a 5-pip stop. I can always allow that to be played out. And I think that's the best way for me to approach it rather than being so anal about the positions, being within a 0.1 of a pip, not getting tagged in, and then it was 0.1 or 0.2, the Think Trader, Think Capital one. It was 0.1 or 0.2 pips I didn't get tagged in by. So that trade sits there. As we now come into the funded next, I had 1.8% left on this account coming into the week. I took a loss on GU and I had half risk from what I had left, so just under 1%. I then used the rest of my risk on GU because it got tagged in again. Took the EU limit off. So obviously I didn't want to take another trade because I couldn't allow both trades to hit stop loss. So currently I don't have a EU trade on this account or this account. I've took it off FTMO. Yeah, I can't even keep track, so I don't suggest you guys even thinking about what's going on here because, yeah. With 3 minutes to go, let's have a look at the Fed rate prediction. Well, 4.5, we've been seeing the last two prints come out of that. Expect it to be the same. I know Trump's pushing Powell to cut, but will it happen? Yeah, I don't think it will. If we see a cut, obviously we're going to see EU and GU more than likely go back to the upside. If we hold, I would suspect it could give some short-term strength in the dollar that we haven't seen decisively yet. You know, we're not seeing that decisive big weekly candles that closing to the upside. That could be this week if we see this. I think more the dollar pairs, I think especially GU, obviously what I'm looking for tomorrow, just before we go into this, is I'm expecting the bank rate to be cut. And obviously you're seeing the euro cut as well. That's not at the minute, but the pound is tomorrow. And I think, you know, with forecasting 9 to obviously look for the cut on the MPC members, I can't see it being anything other than a cut. We can see here we have been slowly cutting down, but yeah, we'll see what it comes out as tomorrow. I'm not about there and I'm at work, so we're gonna have to come back after that. That's the overall idea. So we'll sit here for 2 minutes and then see what it comes out as. I think one of the main things I've realized from being here for a few rates over the years is really, I'd say 70% of the time, you're probably seeing most of the movement today come from the speech afterwards, which obviously Powell's going to make at 7:30 in the UK. I'm not going to be up for that because I don't, soon after this, go to bed. I'll see all this stuff in the morning and it will probably affect the way price moves the rest of the week. You know, will we just see the movement we've been waiting for within the last, realistically on EU? There's been no good price action probably since the last week of April. The last week of April wasn't good. The first week of May's not been good. And now we're coming really into the first full week of May. All right, 10 seconds left. Let's have a look. I'll keep it on EU because I think that one's the closest to potentially moving somewhere. And we'll have a look at the rate after we get the movement. Will we get a spike? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. So let's see what we do. Yeah, shock, not much. So yeah, we tend to want to see what the actual speech has to say. 4.5, yeah, obviously I was right with that. Didn't really seem much of a surprise. I think because of the fact it's come out as expected, it's all down to the speech. I would say with the bigger, you know, positive or negative prints, I think with the 25 basis points, maybe you'll get the wicks, but the 50 basis point differences in the forecast to the previous and stuff, that's where you get the proper movement, I think. But that's Thursday morning now before pre-London. Let's have a look at the charts and make decisions on what we're doing for the day. Ultimately, looking at the XY after the Fed rate with the bullish confirmation on the daily time frame, it suggests to me that we're seeing pullbacks to start the week. Now we're going to get this upside really and taken out this week. And what I believe this previous weekly high isn't enough to come down. And that's obviously what we tried to do last week. We've seen no incentive for downside. It's, if anything, we're just seeing breaks of lower highs, creating higher high, higher low from this low here. And we're starting to see the daily for the first time in a while actually start to look like it's trending to the upside a little bit. Obviously, we need to see some strength and we need to see solid structure breaks. But it does look more bullish for the week, and I think we could come deeper into this area. As for EU, so what did EU do yesterday? Well, we did also see the candle on the daily time frame engulf. So we've potentially left equal highs here on the daily. Previous weekly low is obviously my higher time frame target. As I said on Monday, what I look for after we get the confirmations on the weekly, once we get the daily engulfing candle, that suggests we are now going to respect the current weekly high and come down. I would now be looking on the 1 hour leg for a continuation of this move. So I would be looking at, the leg's potentially this, but I would potentially see
this wick high being respected this overall today in general. So I may look for a move here and getting at the start of this wick around or the 0.7. So getting in around this wick makes sense, expecting this high, which wicked up, obviously, after the Fed rate come in. I'm expecting us to obviously come back down. So I'd have the same target. I'd be looking for a break of Asian high. It depends if, coming into the session when I do my write-ups in a minute, if we're in the position where we're around that 2R point, I may just grab an entry there. I may just get in it at around 2R, but for the minute, I like this trade. Maybe could squeeze the stops up a little bit higher to cover the current weekly high. But overall today, we've got, I think Trump's announcing a massive deal with the UK. So it's going to strengthen the dollar and it's going to drop EU. And it may push GU up. But if the bank rate is going to be a cut, we're going to see the pound weaken to some extent. So I think overall, we could still see a bearish day on the pound. But especially on EU now, what we've seen is we've seen that inducement. We saw a low break of this low. We've then pulled back into the premium and then we've dropped and we're starting to take out these lows now. So these lows are in jeopardy and that's obviously what I'm looking for. There's liquidity sitting here for us to then, if we're going to go back up, come into this weekly and shoot all the way back up. As I was saying, that's exactly what I wanted to see for the weeks playing out so far. So we'll see if we get another position. If we don't, then obviously that's fine. Can't always get entries if Asians potentially done the move. I don't always jump in either. With the new way I want to trade, I'm not going to be jumping in at 4 o'clock when I wake up. It's not something that I want to do. It's quite simply, I want to come on the charts, do my write-up for the day, and if there's a move, then look for the decision to be made. That means I'm not in a rush, and yes, I will miss a move sometimes, but I'd rather do that than rush in. What have we seen on GU now? Well, we saw the fill. So we saw this area filled. We then obviously come back in to fill the weekly 50% and that daily FVG yesterday. Come all the way down and engulfed as well. So again, we haven't took out this low, which I'd have preferred price yesterday to at least sweep this low, and we haven't. So to an extent, I would be looking at selling again today, like EU, within a leg that we can find. So I think the GU leg's a little bit clearer. And to be honest, I think the entry's around now, because if I'd be looking at this as my 1 hour leg, and I want to see this wick for an entry or potentially taken out, we've already seen that wick being cleared. So in my eyes, this move is a go. And really, I'd be looking at this position coming into the session for us to target previous weekly low. So now I've got trades running consecutively here, one further down, one higher up. And if I look to get in this today, I may have a little bit of a higher stop. Can still grab, because with this talk, we may get a bit of a wick, or especially with the bank rate, that covers my arse a little bit. Maybe look for that. Obviously, there's still a lot of liquidity sitting here, but we'll see. We'll see what I'm thinking, where we're at when I come into the session, because ultimately here, where the position could be set, I still want to get my 2R, and if I'm going to jump in within the end of Asian, then I need the R there. So that's really what I'm looking for today. I'm not worried about these wicks to the upside. Obviously, yeah, they could go back up to the highs, but my strategy determines that this now is confirmed for the more downside, and we're not seeing a further higher wick for the week. With a weekly confirmation on both, this should be a wick coming into the morning, and we should see the drop later on. And I feel pretty confident with that now, especially with the fact we're going to see a great deal probably, hopefully, with the pound and the dollar. Obviously, the US and the UK, with Trump having that meeting. I think it's around the afternoon in the UK, or like 10 a.m. for America. So we're going to see potentially us take out previous weekly high today on dollar index, and then we'll see where we're at later on. We saw the bank rate come out Thursday now. We saw the pound actually cut, and we saw a trade deal between the UK and the US. We're not going to talk about it too much. We're just going to talk about what's happened as a result of that. We've seen that DXY has continued up like we looked for when price was making that bottom wick for the day. And then the question is, did I manage to catch any trades off setting up for the day? Unfortunately not. I think, obviously, the EU entry, I was happy to be getting in there. There was no option really to get in unless I was getting in way too early, which I spoke about. I don't want to do that. So that just run overall still nicely today. We've seen continuations of downside, yet we still haven't quite finished this move, which I'm in from the start of the week. Obviously now we're looking at pushing down to that low, and we're only about 10 pips off TP. It is going to probably get there. It's just slow. There's no other way for price to really go. There's nowhere for price to go than to go down now. Really, I don't normally say that, but we're now looking for that final squeeze, if you like, to get down to them levels into the weekly. We should get there today. I don't really expect it to do anything crazy, but we should be heading down there now. GU, I think it was a perfect move this morning here in Asian, and that was a really good trade off that wick, because what you could have done is, as long as you respected this high, you could have had a 3 to 4R trade that would have hit by the bank rate. That was really clean. And then you're looking at, where did I end up entering? Well, I set an entry within this 1 hour order block. Of course, I took it off once we hit this target because I'm not looking to play past that. That was the move. That was my play. And obviously now it's come back and pulled back into that area, but that's not really how I trade. So we're now going to hopefully see this continue down. And for the weekly now, GU's still bullish. We still haven't actually seen a flip yet. And we want to see price actually now start to pull back deeper. As for EU, we're actually seeing bearish candle now. We've flipped. We should just be getting that squeeze. So that's already Thursday wrapped up. What I have done is I've actually gone and purchased a GOAT funded trader account. That's 100k, phase 1. It is a 4%, 10% instead of a 5%, 10%. And that's what I like about these accounts is, despite the daily drawdown is only 4k, to me, I've never had a problem with the daily drawdown limit. I know most traders actually fail from daily drawdown. The profit splits the profit target is 8k, which is 8% instead of 10, and that, to me, that makes a lot of difference on phase 1. I've done enough challenges to know the difference between 8% and 10%. As for the max loss is 10%, which I really like as well, and we've obviously started this today. No trades taken on this. We will see how we get on with this, and going to be trading it alongside this challenge and this challenge. These challenges are currently in drawdown, deep drawdown, so this one being back baseline and being able to try a different prop firm out. Obviously, really liking the way Go Find a Trader look. Just in general, I find it hard for a lot of prop firms to be aligned with more of a higher time frame swing trader. Yeah, they have a little bit of variance between you not being able to trade news. They still give you 1% of the profit that you make, which I do respect. It's a bit like Funded Next, which it's not the best. I would, obviously, if I had a choice, I would have being able to trade news and purchase a swing account. I think more prop firms need to do that. I've spoken about that so many times. But yeah, for the way I like to trade, Go Find a Trader, static drawdown, really offer the 8%, 5% instead of the 10%, 5%. And yeah, let's see these come on tomorrow and hit TP. That's all I've got to say. And that is how quickly a week is wrapped up. We're going to talk through all the things from this week and what I've learned and what we're going to go into next week and do. Starting off on DXY. Well, obviously, we don't know if we're going to break this weekly, and I said about this still could be a deeper pullback phase, so we're eyeing up. Can we now start closing higher up into this weekly, or will we actually close outside of it? If we do, that won't be good for next week to see continued upside on DXY. And we'll have to see what this candle wants to do to finish off. EU, we did win that trade. We obviously saw that low taken out, so we played that move really perfectly in my eyes. We took that exactly where it went up to for the high of the week, which you don't normally see that too often. Catching moves that close to your entry point is always cool. And then on GU, we obviously have come down. We were actually up about over 2 hours at one point. I think we were up 2.5 hours. 2.2. And obviously we're getting a bit of a pullback now. So what I'm looking for to finish the week on the weekly is, if we're going to go down, we shouldn't be engulfing last week's high in terms of the body high. We don't want to be seeing an engulfing candle because it will look like we have the idea to test up at these highs again and try and break through. So what I'm expecting from this week, and what I did expect, was to see that this move down into half the 50% of the weekly, or breaking that weekly FVG. And we just haven't seen that. Obviously, like I said, if we engulf as well on the daily, I'm probably closing out that trade, because at this point, there isn't anything suggesting that I need to. But we still have like 7-8 hours left till the close. I'm not going to rush into exiting today. It will be on Monday morning. And it's obviously to see on the weekly finish what we're looking at going into next week. Break down the analysis, make sure I'm making a rational decision. And as for really the weekly analysis then, I've said here, like after my weekend review previous week of my trading, it couldn't have come at a better week to play this, because everything I did was based on what I worked on. And I wouldn't have otherwise sold this. I, in fact, would have been buying there on GU, and that wouldn't have won. So taking the sell there made so much sense. Again, I think the sell that I took and the loss at the start of the week, it made sense to come higher up.
Reason being, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 candles. Did not generate any upside liquidity breaking a previous daily high, nor did we come and fill this area. And I think getting in too low here probably wasn't the best shout. Obviously, that would have been better for me because now if this trade was to be closed at around 1R, we've just made back the loss, and it's not really that good. Can always learn from a win, even when obviously you took a loss with the win. I think the EU trade was perfect. Now, what I learned the most is because I didn't get tagged in on Think Capital was I need to have some wiggle room of around 2 pips. If I'm trading higher time frame, can't be getting caught out in tiny amounts of spread. Just got to make sure I'm getting in on every single position. And that's really the week done. So I'm very, very happy this week. It's the first winning week I've had since the middle of February, which is mental. And we're just going to try and gain some momentum now coming into the summer months. And I think we should be good. I feel much more confident in the way I'm trading now. And I think I've got that edge a little bit higher. I feel like the edge I've had in the last year has been good. But now I'm really starting to see things a bit differently. And I really hope this is the start of continuing my consistency towards making some bigger winning months, some less losing months, and just overall become a better trader, catch a bit more R here and there, hold trades for longer. That was the last thing I wanted to prove. The accounts were as obviously how I said them. So we're looking at the current funded account. We're actually only down now just over 3%, nearly 3.5% after being down 5.5%. This trade's still running out, so we'll see what this does. We can see that I acted into that trade on EU, and I closed that out at midnight, my time, 1,000, so about 1 hour. It took back that loss, which obviously I didn't mean to take. GU lost there, EU win there. Obviously the same on the challenge. The challenge actually up a little bit now. We're up nearly 2% running on equity. We actually overall have around 0.5% drawdown, which again, it's fine. Like, I know that with the equity curve and the way that we're looking, especially on this, we go on to the more beta. I don't think it's beta anymore. It's just the live metrics. You can see like we've had drawdown a couple of times, gone back up below 0. This time I feel like we shouldn't be going back into drawdown again significantly if this trade can actually give us some profit and we can head and break them previous 6-7% profits that we were at and go to that 10%. I think by end of June I can pass these. This is my main goal, and it's probably more in my head about this challenge getting passed and me trying to get out of drawdown on this because I'm just focused on trying to get max allocated. And that's what I want to do in my trading journey at the minute. What we do in fivers, so I was trading GU a lot, and obviously you can see within these areas here, I decided from, what point was it? Around here, I was just going to trade EU since the start of April, and then I've decided this week I was going to trade both. So that's the loss, that's the win. This is the current trade that's running. And then funded next, we did not take EU because we couldn't get in after I was nearly maxed out on my loss. And what I did do is I actually dropped my risk. I had less than 2% left. I could have just chucked it on one trade. That GU trade didn't win. I'd have blew this challenge, but I gave it one more go, and we are now currently only down. I think we're up 1%, so we're actually only at the minute down 8% on the challenge with 2% left ongoing. If this trade runs, I think I'll have like 3 or 4% to go, which is nice to see. And then here we go. We've got no EU trade tagged in there. You can see this week I've only got that loss on GU, 1.5%. Overall at the minute I'm down 5%. If I won that EU trade and it got tagged in, I'd be nearly back at break even on it. Overall though, that's not looking too bad. We can see that we're actually, somewhat resurrecting these drawdowns out. And that is what you have to do as a trader, stick in there when things don't go well. But that is a week in my life. If you enjoyed it, drop a like, and obviously I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, peace out.